The Holland House, located on North Main Street in Buffalo, Wyoming, is a historic residence, built in 1883. The home was one of the first brick homes built in Buffalo, and it was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1993. Holland family. William Henry Harrison Holland, born on October 28, 1840, served in the American Civil War from 1862 until 1865. Wounded 3 times, he spent 9 months as a prisoner of war at Andersonville Confederate Prison in Georgia. Following his discharge from the Union Army, he returned to his home in Sangamon, Illinois and married Ruth Ann Canterbury on February 12, 1867. In 1879, Holland came to Wyoming, and worked as a cowboy. In 1880, he moved to Johnson County, and he was the first settler in Johnson County to file final proof on his homestead. In the spring of 1881, he brought his family from Cheyenne in a wagon train with 2 wagons and an army ambulance, a trip that took 3 weeks. On October 2, 1882, Harrison Holland was appointed as a Johnson County Commissioner, and he won a full term from 1883 to 1885. He was one of the commissioners at the time the Johnson County Courthouse was built, and his name is on the cornerstone. Holland built the home at 312 North Main Street in Buffalo, and moved into it on Christmas Day, 1883. The home has remained in the family for 5 generations, and it is the only pioneer home in Buffalo still owned by the original family. Harrison Holland died in 1906, and his wife died in 1917. Harrison's son Albert Carlisle Holland married Iselina Christina Holland on May 14, 1891. Albert and Iselina lived in the Holland House from 1920 until Iselina died in 1930. Albert and Iselina had 3 daughters and a son. Harrison's grandson, William C. Holland, married Marion Josephine Richter on November 29, 1929. William C. was the mayor of Buffalo from 1946 to 1950. William C. also served in the Wyoming state legislature from 1943 to 1945, and from 1971 to 1978. He was also the chairman of the committee that produced the Centennial History of Buffalo. William died in 1993, and his wife died on July 28, 2003. The son Charles William Holland was born on March 29, 1939 and died on May 16, 2003. One of the 2 daughters of William C. Holland, Elaine Huff, was the co-author of the National Register nomination. Kathleen Holland Matuska served as president of both the governing board and the endowment and fundraising board of the Jim Gatchell Museum in Buffalo, Wyoming. Holland Matuska received the 2001 Achievers Award for her efforts in spearheading fundraising efforts for the Museum Association. One of Holland Matuska's fundraisers involved the branding of Jim Gatchell Carriage House, which can be seen today. Kathleen Holland Matuska was also actively involved in the community as a member of the Johnson County Fair Board and local 4-H. Holland House. The Holland House was built on land deeded to William Henry Harrison by Mrs. Juliet W. Hart. In the deed, Mrs. Hart stipulated that the house must cost at least $2,500. The builder was Edward Curran, who also built the Johnson County Courthouse. The Holland House is a good example of a late Victorian vernacular brick house. It has decorative window arches and shingles in the gable ends, as well as a bay window on the south side. The building is L-shaped, with a rectangular addition on the rear, and it is 1.5 stories tall. The roof is gabled with the main side gable intersected with with smaller front and rear gables. The brick for the house was manufactured by the Buffalo Brick Company, and is laid in a common bond. Red-colored stucco placed over the foundations covers about a quarter of the wall on the facade, and the rest of the brick walls. Two double-hung windows flank the front entry. Two headers of block are placed above the windows to form rolling arches. The entrance to the house is through a 1930s-style colonial revival door with a fanlight above the glass panel storm door. A gabled hood covers the front stoop. This hood replaces an early A-frame porch that was removed for structural purposes. A bay window centered on the middle of the original house's south side has three double-hung windows. A frame screened-in porch was added during the 1890s, and it is located south of the bay window on the south side of the house. Glass windows were added to the porch in 1956 to make it into a sun porch. A shed roof covers the back porch. Access to the rear of the house is provided through the sun porch addition. The original interior plan featured a central hall with a living room on one side and a parlor on the other. Stairs to the upper story were in the central hall. The kitchen and pantry were in the rear. 3 bedrooms were located on the upper story. Remodeling in 1937 and 1956 changed the interior slightly. The upper story now had a bedroom. The house is shaded by 100-year-old cottonwood trees that were planted by the original owner.